Okay. Well, welcome you all. This is Helicon West. Thank you guys for coming out on a snowy night. I'm Brock, the chair. I'm going to be both MC and the presenter today, so you'll get plenty of me in the next 45 minutes. And just to answer the question, I know a lot of you are thinking, no, I didn't get in a car accident. My neck has a long history of problems, which we won't go into. But last week I got Botox shots in my neck to relieve the pain, and instead they did in my neck muscles. And the good news is that it wears off. The bad news is it takes 3 months. So you'll probably see me in this thing for 3 months. So the official stuff, which before I have glasses. Helicon West is an uncensored public reading series. We regularly host published authors alongside community writers to promote and support all levels of skill, ability, and craft. If you'd like to read during the open mic, you can sign up on the sheet near the coffee service in the very back there. If you'd like to donate to keep Helicon West going, we have bookmarks on the coffee table with a QR code link. We acknowledge that Helicon West operates on the territory of the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation. Our events are made possible with support from Sugar House Review, the Logan Library, the USU English Department, and community volunteers. For a full acknowledgement statement, interviews with featured readers, merch, and more, visit heliconwest.wordpress.com. And upcoming, couple of Helicons that, February's Helicons deserve mention. League of Utah Writers Valentine-themed reading led by these two gentlemen here, Chad and Tim. You know there's trouble when the two of them are involved, but you also know pretty good chance you're gonna laugh, so that's a good thing. And then February 22nd, Aaron Tim and Isaac Tim will be leading the Union of Table Scraps reading, which includes Shannon and Star and me, so that'll be pretty good. So that's upcoming. So for those of you who don't know me, I taught up at USU in the English Department for 21 years and ran the writing program, the composition program for most of that time, and published 5 books for writers and writing teachers. So I used to do this a lot, but I've been retired since 2018. My hope is that you're going to leave here tonight with 5 starts. That is, you get enough on 5 different ideas that you can take it home and read over it, and if it's good, you can keep going with it. You have enough momentum to get going. You won't have enough that you won't get done with anything tonight, obviously. So my plan is to give you 5 prompts isn't really the right word, but I don't know what else to call it, provocations or something like that maybe. With about 5 minutes each, and then if we have time, maybe 8 or 10 minutes at the end where you can work on something to fill it out a little bit. And then I hope to hear from some of you in the open mic part, which will start at about 8 o'clock. Back in your mind, this won't become relevant for a while, but there should be a word for multi-thinking, like multitasking. Multitasking is like doing one thing with one hand. Multi-think that, but maybe that's just thinking, you know, when you do a bunch of different thought lines at the same time. But one of your thought lines could be thinking about stories others have told you. You know, just gossip, stuff that's not your own, but others have told you at some point. First thing I want you to do is think about and jot down the names or the relevant information of a couple or 2 or 3 songs. I'm not asking for your favorite song of all time. I'm not asking for the random thing that just happened to play on the radio, but just somewhere in between, something that has been stuck in your head for a few days, or maybe you put on the stereo when you get home, or you know, you've been particularly fond of and been thinking about. So something that's of some relevance to you. So just take 60 seconds maybe and jot down some songs. I guess I'll do this off to the side here. looks like most of you have a list going, and I'm gonna ask you to just choose one. We'll do this fairly often, and just list, and then find the best one. And I want you to choose one, and then try to answer in a couple minutes, why is it there? Why is it in your head? Why are you thinking about it? Usually it doesn't have anything to do, or it doesn't have much to do with the music itself. It has more to do with, this reminds me of a relationship, this reminds me of a time, this lyric perfectly encapsulates the way I was feeling in such and such a moment. It's more a personal thing. I mean, maybe you're into the music and that would be great. I mean, one of my things up here is Just One Look, which I grew up with as a Holly song, and some of you probably knew as a Linda Ronstadt song. It was in fact, what was her name, Doris Tracy? The year before the Hollies, black woman called Mama Soul, I think. So I thought of it as this British invasion. So anyway, that's one of my things I could work on and play around with. That's about music, but most of yours probably aren't about music. Oh, shut up. So just pick one, and for a couple minutes, write about why is it there. And if this works, you'll probably forget about the music and go off into the relationship or the moment or the feeling or whatever that it sparked. So just go with that. Maybe another 30 seconds on this. Okay, I won't get mad if you keep writing, but we'll move on to the next one. I'm not aiming these at any particular genre. That is, if you want to write a poem, a short story, an essay as a result of this, I'm happy. And as my poetry group would tell you, I tend to write essays in poetry form and vice versa, so I like crossing boundaries anyway. Okay. So keeping with the musical theme, but with a very different kind of angle, we're going to use an old blues line as a template to try to. I think all prompts are trying to get you out of the ruts of your day-to-day thinking and get you to think something new. So this is one possibility. This is a line from a song "I Got a Mind to Give Up Living," which is Butterfield Blues Band, 1966. Incredibly important song, album anyway. And it's a favorite of mine because of the shifts in tone. I got a mind to give up living. Sounds pretty bad. And go shopping instead? Say, what? You're just kidding me, right? Pick me a tombstone, whoops, we're bad being serious, and be pronounced dead. So, we're not here to analyze the song, but I want you to use it as a template for your own thinking. The parts in the green brackets are where you can easily substitute something. So I want you to be thinking, I've got a mind to what? What do you have a mind to do? And something else. Could be, I've got a mind to leave the state and move to a blue state. These don't have to rhyme or have rhythm or whatever. The point is to get you into your thinking. And then these last two parts are kind of optional. But if you get working on it, you'll have something there. So I'm not trying to get you to write a song. I'm trying to get you to think about what is in your mind and what would you like to do instead. So just fill in those blanks, at least the first two square bracket blanks with your own thinking and see where it leads you. Okay, 30 more seconds on this. If there's a commonality in all these prompts except the last one, they're all having you turn inward, thinking about things that are in your head or in your interest, which isn't necessarily better or worse than turning outward, that's the way it turned out. Okay, I want you to make another list. This is of your writing territories. And what I mean by territory is large, a large thing. Not just a subject. A subject would be part of a territory. So family would be one of my territories. Music would be another territory. Skiing would be another territory. So you probably have 8 or 9. And if nothing comes to mind, think about, well, what are the last few things I've written? What were they about? Are those the subjects I tend to get into? So this would not be a thesis or something as small as, you can think of a subject of being within family. How do kids deal with divorce? It's a popular family topic, but family itself is much bigger than that. So just write down the territories you can think of that you familiarly write about. Okay, now what I'm interested in here is connecting some of your territories. If you think about it, I've got 4 of my territories up here: family, teaching, music, and writing. There are gazillions of people interested in and knowledgeable about all 4 of those things. There are not all that many who have some kind of expertise in all 4. And that realization led me to what was maybe my only nationally published article. Christian Science Monitor published a piece on teaching kids with music about writing and vice versa. So I want you to connect at least 2 of your territories, preferably 3. If you have them in a list, you can maybe close your eyes and start in one, go down to another, or you can just see which happen to be next to each other. But take at least 2, and then think about, where would this go? What could this possibly turn into? I think with a little imagination, you can almost always find that the 2 of them overlap in an interesting way, and if you can get 3 going, that's even better. So take a couple minutes on that. Another 30 seconds. I think the concept of your writing territories can be really powerful, especially if you're in a position where you're being asked to write something that you don't know a whole lot about. Like if you're taking a class and you're writing a biology paper or something, you may feel totally at sea. But if you're a Shakespearean and can somehow bring some Shakespeare into the biology, or bring in some geography, or whatever you're good at, whatever you know about, you're likely to do a better job and be more interested in it. So I hope you came up with some weird things there, some weird cross readings. All right, one more list, an authority list. I want you to list the things that you are something of an authority on. Now, being an authority is always contextual. In the East, I'm considered an authority on the LDS Church. Here, I'm a total ignorance. It just depends on where you are. And so maybe think about you're an authority more, you know more about a particular subject than the other people in the room, or than, the people you run into day by day. So nobody's gonna test you on this, but just list things that you feel like you're something of authority on. It could be very specific, like I am an authority on the lyrics of Bob Dylan in the 1960s, or it could be much broader, I like folk music, something like that. So just take a couple of minutes and do an authority list. Okay, now, a whole lot of different ways you can approach a particular authority, and I want you to pick one of the ones you put on your list. First thing I want you to do, maybe it's the only thing we'll do, is I want you to think of an important question related to that topic, whatever it is, that authority, that you don't know the answer to. And just to give you an example, I taught writing for 43 years, I think. And my pedagogy was always to be supportive, welcoming, accept anything anybody did, and just try to make it warm and nice group togetherness and all that kind of thing. When I look at my own writing history, I advanced not from warm people doing nice things to me, but from what I call kicks in the teeth. I would think I was pretty good, and then I would get back a terrible grade, or somebody would edit the hell out of me, or I would realize, no, you got a long way to go. So if you're a writing teacher, which is the way to go? Do you kick people in the teeth, or do you warmly accept them? I don't know. I honestly, I've tried to write about this. I've always been on the warm accepting side, but could be wrong. So if you can think of something that's that huge in your authority area, go for it. But try to think of something that's legitimately a question you don't have an answer to, because I think that's the most productive. So it might take some thinking on this one, but we'll give it some time. Okay, take another 30 seconds on that one. It may seem as though I'm heading for essays here, but I'm actually thinking about, if I was going to write about this, I would write about a poem about kicks in the teeth. So one more step, since we're doing pretty well on time, on the subject you're working on. I want you to dance around it with stakeholders, for lack of a better word. People or institutions that have some kind of interest in your subject. So I'm doing teaching writing, and obviously, you know, the students themselves care, and but there are a lot of other local businesses care about the teaching of writing because they hire people and they assume if you're an English major, you know how to edit their stuff, which is totally untrue. And high school teachers care about how we teach writing at the university, so that affects them, and the athletic office cares. So just take 90 seconds or so and think about all the different people, institutions, job titles, whatever, that would have some interest in your subject, and you might want to bring their perspective in. Okay, one final one, and then I'll give you 10 minutes to work on something, expand a bit. I've used the first 4 prompts a lot of different times. This last one, I don't think I've ever given to anybody, partly because it raises some kind of tricky ethical issues. Well, remember back when I asked you to think about stories others have told you, what I want you to do is steal one of their stories. Jot down whatever stories are in your head, and then take one and put yourself into it. Make yourself the subject or the I or whatever. And I've been thinking about doing this because I realized that my best short story, I did exactly what I just described. I took my best friend's central story of his childhood when they took his special needs brother off to an institution and left him there. I took that story and just totally stole it, and I showed it to my friend. It's not like I did it behind his back or anything. Then I also wrote a poem about stealing his story. So, you can layer it on top of it. So, this might be in the nature of gossip, but You know, think of a good story that somebody else has told you, friend, relative, whatever, and try to play around with telling it your own way so it's your story. See how that works out. I'll give you a couple of specific things to do in a minute. Okay, while you're pondering this one, I want to give you two specific things to work on. One is a detail. What's the best detail that either you know or you can make up about this story? Get as century or whatever and specific as you can. And the other is playing with titles, which is one of my favorite things to do. If you have the germ of an idea, write a whole bunch of titles for what could be the story or the poem or the essay or whatever that you're working on about that idea. Because each of those titles will take you in a slightly different direction and give you an idea of where you want to go. And it's so much better to do that rather than get into page 5 and think, nah, I don't really like the direction this is going. Better to know that right off. So work on those two things, another 3 or 4 minutes. I'm writing about a story I'm not even sure is true about my cousins having sex in the tent when they were like 20. And the detail I wanted to focus on is whoever was telling the story said that the female cousin relieved the male cousin of his virginity. And that phrase I love, relieved him of his virginity. So that's my detail. so that's my 5 provocations, and we now have, I think we can take 10 minutes to just write on whichever of the things you've got going you want to take a little further. And then at like 10 of, we'll go to the open mic, which I should be standing in front of. And I'm hoping to hear some of what you guys have just been working on now, but it's up to you, obviously. So go for it. Okay, the sign-up sheet has only one name on it at the moment, so who would like to add their name? All right. Anybody else? Jack,
Kind of depends.
Okay, I'm hoping after these first three break the ice that other people will volunteer. I know how well you write under pressure.
I have a call line, so I have to leave early.
Well, we're gonna get done early.
Oh,
It's
probably.
only 10 of 8.
I don't know.
You can't use that excuse.
I don't know, depends on if I can read my writing, I suppose.
Right. All right, so we have Vin, Amber, and Lance. Come up and use the mic. Did I say that right? Is it Vin?
Yeah.
Okay. Some Travis reading.
Although I'm very quiet, I will do my best.
You can turn the mic down, just, yeah, there you go, and
Okay.
be close to it, and it'll,
We'll try.
Yeah.
I'm very quiet.
thank you.
So this is the one that we just worked on. This is inevitable anticipatory delay. 2 years into anticipation and a lifetime into grief, the what-if wonder of a home outside the mountains has started to curdle, love going sour from frustrated longing, worsened by every day of little failures, little needs punished under the wheel of moving vans yet to come. Reassurance tastes hollow, promises clinging bittersweet to my own tongue. Just this many months, just this much time. I went to 4 funerals before summer exhaled her last, anticipation grimly confirmed. Not out of time yet, but. And then here is the other one. This is one I just recently wrote called Lay for the Listless Cook, Whore, and Poet Tolerable. Come home to shambles, stand in the front room, breathe like an ox, burdened by unwashed dishes and the rattle of civilization outside. It's meant to be spring. I don't want to close the door. I want to breathe fresh air and tell winter to stop dusting the mountains with her love. Goddamn, give me daffodils and the first breezes of growth. I have broken the laws of my ancestors, and in their unmarked graves they shift unsettled. Put your house in order, poet. I want to be singing in spring air. I heard the gulls crying overhead and wheeling, a great mass of them starting to hunt for fresh prey, looking to find their way to the waters, to open their clever beaks and commit to a life of clever criminality and comfortable living, and bobbing on water and wheeling. Half of me is out the door and begging for water. Half of me is putting my house in order. All of this me is reminded her law and ordinance and carried down traditions. Put your house in order when you cook. Poet, word worker, creature of clouds, tether and bound. A house still needs cleaned and the air still needs breathed. My hands are drying and cracking from dishwater. My lips are cracking from lack of it. Elsewhere there is a goal waiting. Steal my scraps and be king of all, feast and be glorious. Somewhere the sun is shifting behind winter clouds, restless, to gild and grace wings, to tease life from the ground, to make waters warm when I slip within them. I would open my mouth and let it spill in, breathe equinox and swallow solstice and every day in between. Damn, poet, sometime in all that, get to your dishes.
Alright, this is a flash nonfiction essay that I just wrote recently, so haven't got to revise it right yet, anyways. This is it in its raw form for all of you guys. Robin Redbreast. From the dawn of his time as patriarch of our household, many of the natural things of this world found great delight in perturbing my father, the greatest of which being the small birds native to suburbia. Sparrows and robins ate our raspberries, so my father staked nets around our raspberry bushes to protect them. Then they turned to the peach trees, so my father hung glimmering CDs and streamers in the branches to frighten them away. When those stopped working, he encased entire groups of branches in white nets, whose fabric reminded me of the purple gossamer canopy that used to drape down and enclose my bed back when I was a child and still fancied myself a princess. They ate our strawberries too, so he and my mother staked down black nets. This made the strawberries a pain to pick when my mom had me come help her, and many of the birds were persistent enough to squeeze their beaks through the netting and take bites of the berries anyway, but it remained over the strawberries despite my protests. When I was a child and still tender-hearted enough to believe that love existed within me to such a degree that animals could sense how I cared for them, I found a sparrow with his leg caught in the netting of our strawberries. He flapped around in a frenzy, unpredictable. I ran from my father in great distress and brought him out to show him, hiding behind his legs and hoping he could fix it. I asked him if the bird was in pain. It seemed to be, with the way it thrashed. My father pulled on a pair of work gloves as he approached it, assuring me that the bird was fine, it just got what it deserved for stealing. I watched from a distance as my father carefully freed its leg from the netting it had tangled itself into, the wings fluttering all the while. The bird flew off without even a chirp of thanks, surely to return one day and attempt another score. Another bird got itself inside the netting one day around a peach tree, and I again retrieved my father. He unclipped the clothespins that held the flowing, see-through fabric closed, allowing the bird to fly out. Sometime in my teenage years, one of our backyard neighbors, an elderly couple whose house I've only been inside once, when they had us over to tell us about their safari to Africa, set up a birdhouse on the outer wall of their home. This birdhouse became the bird home of a pair of kestrels. Kestrels, if you don't know, are the smallest and most common falcon in North America, roughly the size of a robin. Our neighbors had set up a camera and got to watch the kestrels build a nest and begin to lay eggs. I got to find a spread-winged skeleton of a robin in our backyard, with bits of bloody meat still stuck on the bone. Sometime later, another skeleton turned up. Months later, another one. I never wondered at how they disappeared, and only recently realized my father would have had to throw them away himself. Now there's a paragraph break, and we've shifted point of view. I'm looking down, plastic grocery bag in hand, at this still slightly meaty carcass, and I'm thinking about all the battles I've had with this bird's nest mate, perhaps even with this bird itself. I'm annoyed at my neighbors for not getting rid of the birdhouse that provides a home for birds of prey who leave mostly eaten robin skeletons in my backyard for my children to find, even if they are getting older and tougher these days. I'm also grudgingly grateful to those birds of prey for removing a nuisance. I wonder if my daughter still likes pretty things like birds, because sometimes I'm not so sure. These days she seems more enamored with the messiness of what's inside, with mangled robin carcasses or the abandoned eggs of a bird's nest outside her piano window. Maybe I think about those birds I saved for her all those years ago, as I carry the miniature body bag around to the side of the house. Or maybe I just close the lid to the garbage can and wonder if it's Mondays or Tuesdays that I need to roll the bins to the curb.
Hi. So I wrote a fiction thing. I designed it as if it was like a journal. So January 29th, 1940. The men upstairs asked me to keep these journals for whatever reason. I didn't ask many questions. The guys upstairs just injected us with some stuff or something like that. I don't even know. They said we'd be the ultimate weapon against the Nazis. Either way, I've been feeling some awful heat since. Yeah. January 30th, 1940. Those rat bastards. I woke up in a pile of myself. When I woke up, all the muscle on my body had dripped out through my arms, leaving me with goddamn orangutan arms. January 30th, 1940, 1:30 p.m. After some rifle anger, Doc explained it to me simple. The stuff they gave us was some type of gene manipulator, type thing. I didn't understand much of it. I won't lie. January 31st, 1940. I won't lie, I was still pretty ticked off. Luckily enough, when I woke up, my muscles miraculously retracted back to place. I don't know what these rat bastards did to me, but as long as I can serve my country, I'm happy with it. That's all I got. I was able to write.
All right.
So I wasn't gonna share anything, but Amber's story kind of influenced me to read mine because they were shockingly similar, and I think we wrote them for the same class too, which is kind of weird. But yeah, here we go. It's just called My Robin.
What?
Yeah, I know. Just wait, it gets weirder. We sit together in the wind. We stare at the garden from the driveway, a rusty lawn chair at the turret of our castle wall. The cold flesh of my rifle rests across my lap. Both our stomachs growl in unison. We hunger. There's a thief about. My house and car block our grim visage from the street. None will rescue this fool from our wrath. We lust for their pain. Our minds show us images of their mangled corpse, and we smile, our patience renewed. Then into view our red-breasted quarry. Her song implies innocence even as she lands atop my cherry tomatoes. She surveys us first, half interested. She's seen me before. With the hubris of Icarus, she turns away. A man must answer this challenge. I align the rear sight with the front sight with the bird. I squeeze my finger around frigid steel. The earth is shattered in an explosion. Feathers erupt from the tomato bush like the debris from a volcano. Flecks of blood cover the leaves between the fruit. The ratio of red to green is now unnatural. A tiny squeal, almost inaudible, like that of a fetal mouse, can be heard from the genesis of the blast. My back straightens, but the rifle falls dead on the ground. No joy, no morbid satisfaction, no pride in defending what's mine. Only a memory I'd nearly forgotten floating like a painted stone amongst the pyroclastic flow. My Uncle Tommy, no relation, owned a farm just outside of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where I grew up. My sister had decided we needed to raise chickens, and so my mother had bought a group of around 30 of them. I assumed she thought it would be a good learning experience for us. When the birds became too large to keep at home, we brought them to Tommy's farm. We built a coop for materials on the farm, pallets, chicken wire, sheet metal, 2x4s. They lived well for a time. One Sunday, while preparing to head to the farm to see our fowl, a phone call came from Uncle Tommy. I don't remember what he told us, but I do remember my mom's expression while she was on the phone with him. The drive to the farm was silent. Someone in my life must have thought this would be a good opportunity to build character. Either that or Uncle Tommy didn't want to do all the work himself. As I approached the coop, there was silence where I expected cacophony. Feathers, talons, beaks, breasts, legs, all disassembled and reassembled within the cage. A family of carnivores had found our feathered friends and made their home a tomb. I froze at the gate looking at Uncle Tommy for guidance. Go on, boy. You raise them, you bury them. 26 chickens can produce 52 legs and wings, as well as 52 breasts and thighs. Possums are solitary creatures. If they need to provide for others, it's only the children and only until they're fully grown. A typical litter of possums has 6 to 9 pups. There were 30 chickens. I started crying when I noticed the blood staining my sleeves. Come on now, only wussies cry, said Uncle Tommy. As I collected the body parts from around the coop, I noticed 4 survivors. They didn't notice me. They didn't seem to notice anything. They huddled together, one living mass under a heat lamp, surrounded by the corpses of their brothers and sisters. Now, standing back up, I remove a tiny leg from the base of my tomato bush. A rustle in the brush makes me turn my head. I meet the gaze of the thief, cowering outside my chain link. We both looked on, not knowing how or why we were brought to this place. The universe I know now exists in this moment. All I've learned, all my deeds, right or wrong, exist here as one. The bird and I fuse together, inextricably linked in our pain. Our joys, sorrows, fears, dreams, and loves transfer to each other. It lives in me now, and I die with it then. I reach for the gun to end what I've started, the only use for this machine left. I go to aim once more, and she's gone. I'm still a wussy. The tomatoes that year were the most delicious I've ever tasted.
Yeah?
I'll go, Rob.
Good. He's been inspired. He's not doing birds too.
No. I have, the title I came up with so far is Someone Else, but I think as I went down, I think I might go with the title, Make Yourself the Eye. Make Yourself the Eye, yes, let's go with that. Make Yourself the Eye. He told us to steal someone else's story. That was his advice. This guy was a writing teacher. Think of a story someone else told you, he said, and then write yourself into it. Make yourself the eye. Make myself the eye, I thought. I'm writing nonfiction here. He told the class about a time he ripped off someone else's story, made himself the eye of it. And then he went on to write a poem about making himself the eye in someone else's story. Did I mention this guy was a writing teacher? A college writing professor. Then I got a thought. Steal his story. Rip him off. What could he do? So last summer I went camping. It was me and some friends and a couple of cousins. We got pretty loaded. Like always, I stayed by the fire until it was super late. And it got cold, and it was just me and this other dude I didn't know very well. All right, man, I said, I'm gonna sack out. He nodded, and we doused the fire. As I staggered back to my tent, I got a little lost. I passed by the tent where I knew my cousins were bunking. I heard rustling, giggling. Like I said, I was loaded. I was loaded, like blasted. So I listened at the tent. What's going on in there? I started writing so fast. Oh, what was going on in there? It was a mistake. Did I mention they were cousins? Distant, but still. Joel and Emily. Cousin Joel's 17, Emily's maybe 20. I listened a little longer. Woke up in my tent. It was late. Tent was hot. Sun was up. Crawled out of the tent looking for coffee, but there was no coffee. Everyone was packing up, going home. Except Joel. He was sitting by the fire. A stunned look on his young face. I sat down next to him. Hey, Joel. Hey, Chet. Then I remembered. I said, hey, last night. He nodded. I said, no. He said, yeah. I said, did she relieve me of my virginity? He said, yeah.
Wow. Anybody else? That's fabulous. Well, I guess we're done. Out into the wilderness. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.